I'm going to hand it over to Alfonso to introduce our event tonight.
So I want to introduce our siblings, Shelby and Ashley from the local 443. As I mentioned it before, thank you guys for giving us your free time. I know that you're tired, you've been working the whole day, and we really appreciate on the name of our interpreters. You know, you're really siblings in this matter. Thank you. I'm very proud that you belong to our family of WFSE.
Thanks, Alfonso. And Aida, do you want to say a few words before we get started?
Yes, I thank you. I want to say that we are very fortunate to belong to WFSE. We have very competent staff who support us, who, since we started, have embraced us, and we are valued and celebrated. And I want to say that our union dues are very worth it. We have accomplished so much during these times in our short story or history, but we need to keep going to keep improving our profession, and we need to get stronger and stronger to be able to do it. And that's why we are in this effort to building the WFSE L&I union. We need to make it happen so that we can increase our strength and have more power to be able to bargain, because united we bargain and divided we beg, and we don't want to be begging. We want work with dignity, and we need to be united to fight for our rights. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, our siblings from ESD who are here after working and giving their precious time to us, helping us navigate this process.
Thank you, Aida. And then Mike, do you want to give an introduction as our statewide president?
Yeah, so thank you, Rod. Thanks to everyone again for joining the call. I know, or the video. I know we had the one last week, and it was very well received. And again, I'm really excited to be on here. As I said in my intro, I think this is a group of workers who is doing just really incredibly valuable work for our community that deserves to be recognized and respected. We have a lot of really great activists that have been part of 1671, have really helped get some really major wins for us recently. Couple things I just like to point out that we've been able to accomplish kind of during the last couple months with all of this COVID-19 stuff going on. And when I say we accomplish, I mean we as in not me, not as in staff, but all of us as a union, all of us together, working together, we're able to accomplish some things. So like one of the really big ones was we were able to negotiate in-person rates and hourly minimums during this. So for HCA Medicaid jobs, for DCYF, and then we also use this, the pattern bargaining, to get L&I to adopt the in-person rates for their remote appointments. So we're still working on DSHS, not quite there yet, but that's still a fight that we're going on. And again, why are we doing that? Why is that important? So the first thing is, by giving the 1 hour minimum, you know what you're going to get paid, you know what your job is. An in-person, a remote appointment that could be shorter, that hits you directly in your paycheck. We want to make sure that you're getting paid for the time that you do. Again, having those in-person rates too, so that it's no fault of your own, again, due to this virus, that people aren't able to do the in-person. So making sure that you're still paid, while also keeping you, your clients, the community, your patients, your families, everyone safer from this virus. So another big thing to point out with that is the give backs as of March 13th. So it's been about, what I'm trying to think today's date, so about 6 weeks, right? IRP incident givebacks are suspended. And last I knew, we were still working on trying to get it retroactive back to March 2nd. I don't think we've quite achieved that yet, but we're still, again, these are things we're still working on. As I mentioned, the in-person rates for the remote. One of the reasons we're here tonight by expanding unemployment insurance for interpreters who historically would have been denied that ability because of the independent contractor status, right? Again, these are people, all of you are people who are working out there doing valuable work. It's not for lack of people wanting to work that they're, that the jobs are not the way they were. So we want to make sure that people are protected, people can still pay their bills. Expanding the workers' compensation, again, for the interpreters. Couple other things that we've worked on, which doesn't just affect our interpreters group, but affects everyone in the state, is the eviction moratoriums, the utility shutoff moratoriums, the rent increase moratoriums. So during this economic crisis, people aren't going to be, being taken advantage of, being put out on the street. We're also working on some emergency basic income, some internet access, basically as a public benefit, the same as, public schools or things like that, because as we can see on this call tonight, under our new normal, having internet is incredibly important to be able to continue to work, to be able to continue to have, the communication with your communities and the telework opportunities. Another big one that we've been working on, both for interpreters and all the frontline workers, is making sure that when you are doing in-person work, you have adequate PPE, personal protective equipment, again, to keep you safe, to keep your family members safe, all of that. One final other thing that is worth mentioning too is, so came to our attention very recently, just in the last day or two, that some of the accessing the language interpretation appointments, that people have been struggling to get that access. And while we understand that some of the medical social service appointments, have decreased significantly because of COVID-19, again, we believe that interpretive services are critical to continuing to provide, health checkups for people, getting them the medical care they need, getting, again, any other assistance for people where English might be a second language, or even, that they don't know English at all, limited English proficiency. So, and that's where, again, this group is really important, because you guys are representatives of the greater communities of Washington. It's really important that the interpretive services to Washingtonians be provided by Washingtonians, by the people in our communities. So one of the things that we're asking on right now, and I believe we're going to be getting a link out pretty soon, if it's not already just out before I got on the call, is that we're going to be asking everyone to sign on to ask Governor Inslee to make sure that we are using interpreters who are actually based in Washington for these remote appointments. Again, the final thing with that, just to wrap up, is thanks everyone for jumping on here. Thank you to Shelby and Ashley also for volunteering their time to help everybody, walk through this system, which we understand can be complicated at times. I mean, I know it's complicated when I've talked to them just about what they do and different stuff. So it's helpful to have, experts to, help all of us navigate this, make sure that we are taking care of each other. And I think that's the final thing, is this really shows the power of a union, right? Is that we are sticking together. If one of you guys are in trouble, all of us are in trouble, right? Like, we're not going to leave anybody behind. We're going to do, we're going to come together. We're going to lock arms and do what we need to do to watch out for each other. And then the final thing with that is, I always kind of end all these different things with, definitely feel free to reach out to your local officers with 1671, reach out to your, the WFSE staff who are doing an amazing job. And then specifically for me, if there's anything that I can do, either if it's information you think I need to know, or something that, you need some help with, You know, Mike Y at WFSE.org, my email. Shoot me an email. I always tell people I can't promise that I know the answer, but I can promise that I will get back to you and I will try to find the answer for you. But definitely, like I said, reach out because we're all in this together, and I'm really glad you guys are here. And with that, I'm going to stop rambling and hand it back to Rod.
Thank you, Mike. And just so folks know, Mike is a working union president. He is currently, you know, working in person at Western State Hospital as a psychiatric social worker. So he has a very, very long day. He works, you know, one job at Western State and also, you know, another full-time job for our union. So we're very lucky to have him tonight, but I know that he won't be able to join us for the whole town hall. So thank you, Mike. And on the note of the petition, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this works. This is a copy of the petition that we're going to be launching, and I'll send a link to this in the chat. This is the petition that is calling on Governor Inslee to use Washington State-based interpreters for public appointments. So, you know, since COVID hit, we've had a lot of problems accessing jobs. And so, you know, although we recognize that the pandemic is mostly to blame for the decrease in economic activity and work, we do want to ask that the state does make sure that for jobs in any state agency that they're doing everything that they can to use interpreters who are either, you know, working in person in Washington or who are based in Washington for remote appointments. So we are going to be sending this out into the chat to everyone. Please sign this petition if you can. There is a link to the petition. Please sign that if you can. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley and Shelby, who are going to start answering some of the questions. I'll help a little bit with triaging that. I know there were some people who weren't able to get their questions answered last time, so I think we'll try to the best of our ability, go to those folks first. So Ashley, do you want to start at the top of the alphabet, maybe?
I think today we're going to start at the bottom of the alphabet. I see some repeat names, so I'd like to start at the bottom, but I'm actually going to start with the questions that were input already in writing, so we can just hit those because they might hit on some of the ones that are going to be asked. Shelby has been here answering them. I don't know if you guys are getting the answers, but I'm just going to go through these. So the first one, I made a mistake in my application on my date of birth. It needs to be corrected in order for me to complete my PUA application. I called a zillion times, wrote several emails, got no answer. I am stuck. Unfortunately, you are not the only one. You're just going to have to keep trying to call. That is really all that we've got, especially when it's something like this. In order to fix that original claim, you have to have an actual claims agent be able to get into that account for you. Diana, you just raised your hand because I had already put your hand down. What's up?
Thank you, actually. Well, I didn't raise my hand, but since I have you guys on, I was going to ask, in case, because some interpreters end up traveling to different states on assignment. So does that mean they worked in a different state or didn't work in a different state? That was something that I kind of struggled with that question. Like, have you worked in a different state? If the assignment was, you know, a day or a week, but I guess primary work was conducted in Washington.
I would say no to that because, like, my employer has sent me here, there, and everywhere on an airplane, right, to go do work, but I've never worked outside of the state of Washington. I may have been there for work, doing work in another state, but I was still employed in the state of Washington. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so,
but that's the difference because you have an employer, but whereas for us, let's say I work in the courts, in a certain court system here in Washington state, and then let's say Oregon court needs an interpreter for whatever hearing or trial they may have. So they contact an interpreter in Washington if there's a lack of interpreters there. So let's say I say, yes, I can do it. I go there to Oregon, and that can apply to other states as well. So that's where I was wondering, as a self-employed person, is it considered that you, and hence that question, like, do we need to also do any kind of applications in those states, or no, or just Washington? And then do we say,
yeah, just focus on Washington, honestly.
and then
Yeah.
click no when answering, have you worked in other states?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Because it's where you're located. It's not just because you traveled somewhere. If you moved and filed your business in another state, then you'd be in another state. But just because you're going for work, you're still working in Washington.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you're unmuted.
Oh, yes, thank you, Ashley.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Yes, so you answered one of my questions. I have other question just posted. My question is I get a letter because we put ourselves as an independent contractor. So I got a letter, I think it's an automatic letter, urgent data request, and asking me to verify myself as employer and employee and send data. So should I answer that letter? That will stop me. My case is now pending. Claims are pending in education.
Are these the claims on the initial unemployment application, or have you they are?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a hard one.
That was actually probably before the PUA came out.
Yeah.
That was before the PUA, and it's dated here April 14 when I'm looking at it. But now my PUA is active, but the claim, the weekly claim are pending, and it's the same for my wife. So we are both self-employed.
I would send that letter back saying I am self-employed and I am now on the PUA, because that letter was sent from the initial applying and you wouldn't have received that letter from us if we had had that PUA open sooner, right? So respond to that letter saying I am self-employed and I have an active PUA claim. That way they will know that you are self-employed, and they can, because that should be really simple to clear, honestly. It's just they can't clear it until they get that letter that proves, that states, yes, you're self-employed, you're not an employer.
They are asking about my first quarter wages and first quarter hours, which means January, February, March 2020. Should I answer those, give them the data too, you think?
It couldn't hurt. I mean, giving them more information isn't going to hurt you. So you could fill that out. Again, that letter is meant to go out because it went out with that initial applying. That letter is meant to go out to an employer who is working you. And so now what's happening is, you said you have an employer and the system's like, but I can't find any wages for you. So they're just trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to understand why the system doesn't have the information. And the system doesn't have the information because it doesn't exist. So you can fill that out. It's not going to hurt your case at all, and then that will push that through for you.
As for the education department, there's no way, of course, we can reach them, and even calling 622. Well, I called maybe 4 or 5 times, and they keep telling me we're gonna email them, but it seems I found out today that it takes like 4 weeks, you say, for them to answer. There's no way we can communicate with them, right?
Nope, only through one of those 2 phone numbers or your e-services portal.
Are you saying that if we call those numbers and ask them to give, maybe we can talk to somebody in education to give some answer? That's possible, do you think?
Yeah, if you call in and ask to speak with an adjudicator, they can try and push you through to one. to try and get this pending status off your claim because of this employer issue. Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
of course.